Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Texas Rangers franchise here on MLB The Show 21 and the MSM Sports Network. Today's a big episode, maybe the biggest episode of the series so far, as today is the first year amateur player draft, and this is a day where we set the course of the franchise. Who we draft determines basically if we're going to be able to succeed in the next couple of years or if we're really going to be in scramble mode. Cannot wait to get into this and show you who we ended up drafting with. As I said at the end of last episode, I did a ton of prep work to scout these players, to familiarize myself with them, to create background stories from them, and so I certainly hope you get that level of detail. Since last episode, to catch you up, we got swept by the Houston Astros at home. It was an abysmal homestand as we went 1-6 and just could not get any sort of offense going. We get blanked twice by the Astros. Then we go out on the road, and we actually won the second game against the Angels. We swept the Seattle Mariners, and a large part of that was thanks to Joey Gallo's home run streak. Gallo hit 4 home runs in 5 games, and certainly seems to officially have broken out of that slump. Really excited to see what he can do here in the month of June, and then maybe even into July as, well, we move towards the possibility of possibly having to trade Joey Gallo. Speaking of trade offers, the White Sox called, and they wanted to know if Cole Hamels was available. They wanted to send us lefty Carlos Rodon in return. Now, Rodon threw a no-hitter in real life for the White Sox earlier this year, but it was so surprising because he's been injury-riddled his entire career, and as you can see by the graphic, not pitching well this year, an ERA over 6. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down. I felt like Rodon wasn't the best that we could potentially get for Cole Hamels. Cole is pitching all right this season, and I think that we could flip him to an actual contender. The White Sox, again, are in last place in the American League Central, and I think that we might be able to get a better prospect rather than just some 29-year-old pitcher who's been injury-riddled his entire career. You see some notifications there, some not-so-good ones to start, but guys like Jonathan Guzman really tearing it up at the plate. Josh Stowers, who the Rangers received from the New York Yankees, also playing well, and that's going to be huge and really encouraging as we head towards the end of this season. This specific episode is all about the development of this team, and guys like Stowers and Guzman, I think, could be really big parts of the future if they stay on track. You get a look at some of the other players on this team and how they're performing so far this season. And one guy that might not be around for very much longer is Chris Davis. A couple of teams were calling about him, including the Los Angeles Dodgers. And Davis doesn't offer a ton as far as defensive versatility goes, but he's been really hot at the plate as of late. The last 2 weeks specifically, he's really come on strong, and that's gotten the interest of a couple of contending teams. So first we start with the Dodgers, and we were trying to figure out what prospect they would be willing to part with outright, just a one-for-one deal, and unfortunately I couldn't get that done. I'm kind of glad I couldn't get that done because Chris Davis doesn't have a ton of inherent value except to the right team and in the right situation. And the Dodgers, obviously a team that are very, very deep. They weren't willing to part with anyone for a price that I was comfortable with, but the Twins were. And Jason Bear gets thrown into this deal, a 24-year-old right-hander who I don't really see having a big league career with us. Blaine Inlow is the returning piece from the Minnesota Twins and a potential 20-year-old from the state of Louisiana, and I will readily accept this deal, as Inlow is very raw, just a 63 overall, but he's 20 years old, and in an organization like the Rangers, he will have that time to develop. He throws really hard, he's got some good breaking ball offerings, and you get the first look at Blaine Inlow in a Frisco Rough Riders jersey. To replace Chris Davis on the big league roster, we called up Delino DeShields, and really excited to see what he can get done in his opportunity this year. Well, we turn now to the first-year player draft, and so many prospects are on the board. Our scouts were hard at work all season long trying to figure out who is going to be the player that we selected at number 2 overall. Obviously, we're going to have all but one blue-chip prospect available to us, with the Pittsburgh Pirates picking first, and I wanted to make sure that we got the right selection. I did my homework. I really looked into who I thought was going to be the best fit, and I narrowed it down to 4 guys. The number 1 guy was Hank Lyons. Lyons was the ace for the South Carolina Gamecocks this season. He pitched in 14 games. He was 12-1 with a 2.11 ERA. He had 87 strikeouts and 10 walks. South Carolina finished in second place in the SEC East behind Vanderbilt, but they upset number 1 ranked Vanderbilt in the Nashville Super Regional to make it to the College World Series. Lyons is a guy that definitely has the potential to be an ace, and he was right up there towards the top of my board. The second player I considered was right-handed pitcher Morris Cash. Cash is the ace for the Louisville Cardinals, and he was 9-2 this season with a 2.83 ERA. Cash was a strikeout machine. He had 124 Ks and 24 walks, and Louisville was the ACC regular season and tournament champions. Louisville defeated an upstart St. John's team in the Louisville Super Regional to make it to the College World Series, and Morris Cash led the Cardinals to an NCAA championship in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Cash probably won't blow you away with his fastball, but he does have plenty of velo to get it done. His value may actually be in the breaking ball and his ability to avoid walks. So Cash, a guy that I would like to fall to number 2 as well. Up next was the Big 12 Player of the Year from Texas Tech University, catcher Dan Porton. Porton hit .322 with 5 home runs and 57 RBIs, and he led Texas Tech to a Big 12 championship, but they lost to the Arkansas Razorbacks in the Lubbock Regional. He's part of a weak catcher class, but Porton is going to be a franchise backstop for somebody. He is head and shoulders above the rest of the catcher class. He's got amazing contact skills, and he appears to be a brick wall with a sniper rifle attached to his arm behind the plate. Comparisons to Buster Posey were flying all over the place, and I certainly think that he'll be a quality player at the next level. The final guy to dive into that I think could be a potential pick at number 2 is third baseman Steven Del Villar. He came to the United States for high school and played for the IMG Academy, and at IMG, Del Villar hit .355 with 9 home runs and 42 RBIs. I don't know if he has the arm to play third base at the big league level, but this high schooler could easily be a second baseman. He's got a lot of pop in his 5'10 frame to go along with a great eye for putting the bat on the ball, so he's not going to strike out a lot. I think Del Villar is going to be a big leaguer for sure. I just don't know where he fits, but the talent and the athleticism are evident. With my top 4 prospects listed, we go into the draft, and the Pittsburgh Pirates had the first overall selection. They took William Chin, a center fielder, a high schooler from South Korea, who I, to be honest, didn't really even consider at number 1, so I was shocked. Chin is going to be an okay player, but I don't see the ceiling that was available for him. So we had all top 4 picks that I had listed on the board, and I was beyond excited. And as you're about to see, I really took my time here. I had to edit down my decision-making process because it probably took 10 or 15 minutes of me just going back and forth between a couple of these guys to ultimately decide. You see all the blue chippers that we have available, Steven Del Villar, Dan Porton available, but in the end, what I came down to was a decision between Morris Cash and Hank Lyon, my top 2 rated guys on the board, and you'll see I'll go back and forth. Both of these guys I think are going to be tremendous starting pitchers at the next level. I really had to just gauge back and forth between who I thought was going to be a better guy. I was looking at velocity, I was looking at break, I was looking at strikeouts, walk ratio, all the stats like that, and after much deliberation, we had our decision. With the number 2 overall draft pick in the 2021 MLB Draft, the Texas Rangers select Hank Lyons, starting pitcher from the University of South Carolina, in the first pick of the franchise. Felt like Hank Lyons not only provided the potential and the ceiling for a starting pitcher, but he also had the frame. It's 6'4", and as a southpaw, this guy can get it done with a fastball and with the breaking ball. I love the pick, and we'll get to the rankings in just a little bit. You see there the rest of the picks in the first round, and you get to see where the other top prospects went. Dan Porton goes to the Orioles, Clyde Jansen goes to the Royals, and Steven Del Villar stays in the division he goes to the Seattle Mariners. On top of all of that, Morris Cash somehow falls all the way down to 15 with the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll look at his ratings in just a moment. In the second round, the Pirates took Kevin Simons with their first pick, and so we had a couple of different options that I was looking at here with our second overall pick. Still a chance to get a guy who could have slipped out of the first round, although with the compensation picks, that certainly makes that a little bit more challenging. First guy that I ended up looking at was 19-year-old third baseman Ben Espinoza. He certainly seems like he's got a great ceiling, but he's not fully scouted, or scouts are pretty sure that they're right, but still, until you get that 100% completion, you're not going to ever be sure. Alexis Castillo was the next guy, a very solid player, but doesn't really seem to project to be all that much more than his current ratings. And then there was Gilbert Quevedo, a 21-year-old first baseman from New York. Again, a very solid player, but you don't really know what the ceiling was. And so here in the second round, I'm going to go ahead and go with what my scouts feel like they're most accurate on, and that's the third baseman, Ben Espinoza, just the 19-year-old. He joins the Texas Rangers in the second round. As you simulate through that, we get ready to head to the third round, but first to show you who all went, Jermaine Cordero was a first baseman that I had looked at. He goes to the Tigers. A couple other guys going. Junior Urban was a pitcher that I had looked at. He went to the Houston Astros. To the third round, and I'm looking at Todd Hermann here, a left-handed pitcher from the state of New York. The 21-year-old was a guy that I had looked at in the second round and thought, okay, if he slides to the third round, we're likely going to take him. Quevedo was there, so was first baseman Ed Warden, but in the end, I went with my gut, and I'm going to go with another pitcher here in Todd Hermann. The 3-pitch mix, not the most attractive, but he's got good velocity, and I think he could certainly be something, if not out of the starting rotation, I think he could be really good out of the bullpen. You see Ed Warden there goes to the Astros, so another guy that I looked at staying in the division. In the fourth round, Kenny Sharp from the state of Florida, the left-hander, jumped out at me. I thought this kid had a really good ceiling. I liked his intangibles, especially with that high fastball rate. His walks per 9 isn't the best, but I think he could really be a shock and awe type guy. And so we went with Ken Sharp in the fourth round. Gene Seda would be our pick in the fifth round, a shortstop from the Northeast, from the state of Massachusetts. We'll get to him in just a minute. And then with the sixth round pick, it was Santiago Sanchez, a switch hitter from the Dominican Republic. In the sixth round, you're just chasing potential at this point. I like his hit ratings, plus his ability to hit from both sides of the plate was ultimately what drew me to him. So now that we've drafted everyone, let's look at the ratings, and a very solid draft for us. Not my best that I've ever had, but you take a look at Hank Lyons, a 65 overall, 91 potential, and I think this guy is going to be something special. He's not going to be the highest rated potential that you're going to see in just a minute. I will admit that. But I still like what he brings to the table as far as hits per 9, walks. He's not going to let the ball get out of the ballpark, and he's going to have a good fastball and good breaking ball pitches to go along with that. I think Hank Lyons is a very solid pick. Was he the best pick to make there? Maybe not, but only the future will tell. And I'm really excited to get him in our organization, to start developing him, and then hopefully see him in a Texas Rangers uniform in maybe as soon as a season and a half to 2 seasons. I think he could be ready that soon. He's got that kind of electric stuff off the mound. I really, truly believe that he's going to be a special player for Texas. Let's talk about our second draft pick in Ben Espinoza. And Espinoza was a guy that really drew my attention there in the second round. 19 years old, but he's 6'4". He can play third, and I'm also going to say he can play first. The scouting report said that he could. I'm not sure why it doesn't now, but I'm going to change that. I think he's going to be a decent corner infielder. 78 potential, 73 overall. Espinoza was enrolled at UC Santa Barbara. He played 2 seasons there and earned Newcomer of the Year in the WAC his freshman year. He hit .311 with 9 home runs and 36 RBIs this past season. He's got a vacuum glove and good power. I'm just not sure how high his ceiling is going to be. I think he's a textbook overachiever. There are always players in the show that outperform their ratings, and basically what I'm looking at he's not the best hitter in the world, but a decent fielder. I think Espinoza is certainly a candidate to push that potential up into the B range. With our third pick, we took 21-year-old Todd Hermann, the 6'2" left-hander from the state of New York, 79 potential, 64 overall, another guy that I think could be a B potential player down the line. Hermann left New York to pitch 3 years at Campbell University in the Carolinas. The Camel was 6-2 with a 3.20 ERA in his junior season, and Hermann is a very attractive, hard-throwing lefty. He'll need to develop a fourth pitch to go along with his fastball, cutter, and a great changeup, and he's also going to need to work on not missing up in the zone. According to the scouting report, when he's not pitching well, it's because he's leaving his fastball up in the zone, his changeup isn't sinking below the knees, and he's giving up a lot of hard contact. So Hermann, a guy that I'm probably looking at ultimately to come out of the bullpen just with a 3-pitch mix, but I truly do like the upside with him. He's got good velocity, good breaking stuff, and his walks per 9 is actually really good for a rookie. I think Hermann, again, like Espinoza, is a guy that can ultimately overachieve. To Kenny Sharp we go, and this might be one of my favorite picks in the entire draft. The 20-year-old, 6'1" left-handed pitcher with 86 potential. He's very, very raw. 54 overall, but the lefty left his home state of Florida. He was recruited to Texas A&M University, and he had 2 sizzling seasons in Aggie Land where the lefty accounted for 63 strikeouts in really only 1 year starting after 5 appearances in the pen during his redshirt freshman season. According to the scouting report, he is raw, but could develop into a true gem. A guy that is really learning how to pitch still and how to get weak contact from hitters, how to miss bats, but still, the talent is there. A fireballing southpaw who can throw 3 other off-speed pitches. He's going to need to keep the ball in the zone, and if he can master that command, this kid is ultimately going to be brutal to face. With our 5th pick in the draft, we were just looking for upside, and we chose Gene Seda, a 20-year-old shortstop from the state of Massachusetts. He's just 5'7" and 77 potential. He's 53 overall. To be honest, he's not a very good player right now. He's actually got a decent bat, but his glove is so bad, I'm not really sure where he's going to play. Seda is a guy who played baseball for Boston College. He walked on his freshman season, but quickly became the starting shortstop for the Screaming Eagles. Although he definitely profiles as a second baseman at the next level because of his glove, Gene is a fantastic hitter, especially against lefties. His lack of speed and true glove skill may hold him back, and the scouting report basically says don't expect a Jose Altuve story here, although you can probably bet that he won't cheat in the World Series. With our final pick in the 2021 draft, we took Santiago Sanchez, the 19-year-old from the Dominican Republic. He's 6'2" and listed as a second baseman. Not really sure where his secondary ability will be. He's got a 69 potential, 65 overall, and Sanchez is a former tennis player, actually, who only has played baseball for the last 6 years. He moved to Texas from the Dominican Republic, and it was then that Sanchez realized he could switch hit pretty easily and picked it up as he played in the San Antonio area. He's got a solid bat, although there's not much power, and he's got good speed and athleticism from his time as a tennis player, but he's not naturally a complete fielder with the suboptimal throwing skills. Scouting report notes that he'll need a lot of work with the glove, but he certainly could surprise people if he lands with the right organization. So there are our draft picks. Now it's time to go around the rest of the league and see where different guys landed. You see Steven Del Villar, one of the guys who I considered with that first pick. He ends up with the Seattle Mariners. The rest of the division didn't draft well overall, but Scott Juarez is a really good starting pitcher. He's going to need a lot of development, but he landed with the Angels. Sean Camarada, ended up with the Houston Astros. Clyde Jansen was another high schooler that I had looked at. He was one of the top outfielders. He ends up with the Royals. You see the Tigers had a decent draft, a couple of later picks. They got Gilberto Quivero, which he's going to need a ton of work, but if he can reach that ceiling, great for him. Aaron Blount was a highly rated closer. William Wolf was the top-rated high school shortstop. He went to the New York Yankees. Dan Porton, this one hurts. He went to the Baltimore Orioles, and you look at his ratings there, he was a tremendous pick for the Orioles. I can't believe he fell to 6. He was a guy that I almost picked, but ultimately decided that our needs mandated a pitcher more than a catcher. Let me know what y'all think about that in the comments, who you would have taken with the number 2 overall pick. As you see, obviously the potential there for Porton a little bit higher than what Hank Lyons has. The Cardinals had a tremendous draft, and then you get a look at William Chin. He's the top overall pick and 97 potential, but he has got a very, very long way to go. This was the other one that hurt. Morris Cash, 69 overall, 97 potential. I don't think right now he's nearly as good as Hank Lyons based on that spread of characteristics and ratings, but he might have the higher ceiling. Ultimately, I opted for the tall left-handed pitcher over a smaller right-handed pitcher that I thought had very, very similar qualities. So that's a look around the league very, very quickly. Let me know, like I said, what you guys think about the draft. Is we're going to sign all of our draft picks. Leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know what you want to see me do with the future of this organization. We're going to be moving forward towards the trade deadline here in the next couple episodes. We'll also look at some of the minor league guys, as well as we'll probably play a game with AAA and maybe even a AA game down the road. Well, that'll do it for episode 7. Feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me on Twitter at MitchMason10. You can also find the MSM Sports Twitter in the YouTube channel or on the main website as well. Until next time, so long, everybody.